Alright, skipping the intro, going straight into it. We'll see if I vibe with it. If not, the intro will be back. Anyway, today's video is about Bridgerton. I know I'm a little late getting into it. I know Bridgerton blew up in the beginning of the year and it's sort of fizzled out as far as people talking about it, but I do know it's still very popular. And I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I finally collected some of them. I put them down, and now I'm going to throw them at you relentlessly, and you have to just dodge them, alright? Get ready, they're coming your way, so tuck and roll, let's go. If you've been on my channel for any measure of time, you know that I'm very pro liking what you like regardless of popular opinion. I mean, I've made how many videos on Twilight, and I'm sure they won't be the last. Like what you like regardless of cringe, okay? I'm fine with that. You're allowed to like something and it still technically be bad. If you don't feel like actually watching this full video, I'm gonna summarize everything I have to say in one sentence. Bridgerton is basically just fan fiction. That's it. Bye. It's fan fiction based in ye old times. The whole let's pretend to date and then we actually fall in love thing, please. It's Pride and Prejudice fan fiction if Pride and Prejudice were a lot worse. Because let's be honest, the actual story is boring at best. The only appeal that it has is the fashion, the mansions, and orchestra versions of pop songs. And I think most people can agree that it's not historically accurate, and that's fine, I guess. If you want to be a fantasy AU, then be one. The show kept flip-flopping between a fantasy AU and actual historical content, because there was some historical content, and then also wildly inaccurate content. Pick a lane, commit. One thing I do want to point out that doesn't like super have a whole lot to do with my point, just something that bothered me, was Daphne's brother Anthony and the way he delivered his lines in the beginning. I understand that he was overprotective and that was like his shtick in the beginning, but the way the lines were delivered, I was certain there was a hidden incest plotline coming my way. I was convinced of that for a while. What was that creative choice there, my guy? But then he does try to get her married off to Nigel Burbrook, who I think he just like picked out of a hat at random. He says it's someone he's like vetted, obviously not, because then he gets absolutely clocked by Daphne in the garden. And why is everyone in such a rush to get Daphne married? She seems perfectly content with waiting. I mean, even Eloise is fine with waiting, and no one gives her grief about that, but everyone's pushing Daphne, even though in the beginning she says, I can skip this season. That's why her and Simon got together, was just so she could stop having men shoved on her. She was tired of it. She didn't want to be involved. So why was everyone in such a hurry to get her married when Eloise was fine? The family is plenty rich, so it's illogical because the whole idea of marrying off your daughters was to get money, right, so that they would be taken care of. But if your family's already rich, it's fine. That's why it's fine for Eloise to skip getting married, because she'll be taken care of by her family and she's not a burden on her family. There's also very shallow world building. If this is supposed to be a sort of fantasy AU, then what is going on in this world? You know, they talk of a war. What war? Who are they fighting and why? If it's not historically accurate, then who is it about? Who I need to like understand a little more. Things like that could really help round out the story and make it more immersive, but they don't really care to make it immersive. The whole show was literally just pretty people in pretty clothes and sexual tension. And speaking of people, the two main characters are the most bland of them all. Here are people I find more interesting than the main couple that the whole show revolves around. Lady Whistledown, of course. Lady Danbury, she's fun, fresh. I want to know more about her. The Queen, she seems interesting. The Featheringtons, even. I mean, I know we got a little bit of them because what's her name got pregnant. I can't keep up with everyone. And lastly, the himbo brother, Colin. I don't know, he just seems kind of fun. I want to know more about him, because I'll say it right now, Simon and Daphne had like no chemistry. I mean, sure, there was sexual tension, but that was it. There was really no romantic tension, the kind of things that make scenes like when they touch hands in front of the painting, things that people liked of Pride and Prejudice, right? And I think that's what the show was trying to emulate, that same kind of feeling of the hands touching and, you know, all Mr. Darcy and the hand flex, all of that with the hands. I get that. I get where they're coming from. And that scene, I wanted to feel something, right? I wanted to feel the yearning, but there wasn't. It was just cold. Does that make any sense to anyone but me? They wanted that slow burn that things like Pride and Prejudice give you, and it just fell so flat. And Simon and Daphne act like they're so much better than everyone, so much more clever because of their little ruse, but everything they do is out of their own privilege. They're benefiting from the very system they think they're outsmarting. Everything they do is just as frivolous as everyone else. They are not the heroes of the story, and under even the slightest scrutiny, they become the least compelling leads of any story I've seen. There's no emotional intimacy between Simon and Daphne. When Daphne thinks of him, it's always under sexual circumstances. She's never daydreaming about her conversations with him. She's just watching him, what was it, eat ice cream and like stare at the spoon. And the reason I have a problem with this is because there is supposed to be romance. It's not that there's just not supposed to be romance and it's only sexual tension. It's because it's supposed to be a romance. Where's the romance? I want it. Where is it? It's literally just porn with plot. You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong? There's an entire episode dedicated to the honeymoon that does nothing to move the plot along, Doug. And they had no chemistry. It just feels like Daphne's just kind of along for the ride, literally and metaphorically, with Simon. And I want to go back just a little bit and say that I think Prince Frederick of Prussia was actually a great choice to marry. I think Daphne, if she wasn't so caught up in this lustful fantasy, not love, I do not think she was in love with Simon. I'll be honest, I think it was all lust because of what I saw. Again, where's the romance? If she wasn't so caught up in these lustful thoughts of Simon, I think she would have seen that Prince Frederick was actually a very sweet and kind person and didn't play games with her, weird little mind games like Simon did. We didn't get to see a whole lot of him because he was just there to add some conflict, so we could, get Simon and Daphne together more and whatever. Everything's about Simon and Daphne. I get the irony when this is coming from someone who likes Twilight and Edward and Bella. Like, I get it, but just let me finish. And this brings back my point of, are we historically accurate or not? Because they say like, oh, we don't really care about historical accuracy. We just want to have fun with this. Okay, fine. So then why was the Prince of Prussia wearing a decorative Prussian black cross that was later co-opted by the Nazis? It was just a national military symbol at the time. It wasn't racist when it was first introduced. This once again begs the question, where are we with the historical accuracy and fantasy? Where's the line? We exist in a fake world with no racism, which I'll get to, but also a real world symbol that gets adopted by literal Nazis. So speaking of racism, the show couldn't decide what it wanted to do with that. They could have just pulled a Hamilton, right? And cast whoever fit the part the best, and the skin color doesn't matter, everyone's treated the same, and that would have been fun and fresh, right? It seemed at first that they did do that until one of the characters, I forget who, don't come for me, I don't care enough about this, makes a comment about the fact that the king, who's a white man, married the queen, who is a black woman, and apparently that fixed racism. Like, apparently there was racism, and then that fixed it, and then they never mention it again. But they threw that one little line in there, and then I think they just forgot about it. I think they wrote it and then just forgot that was gonna be a part of the plot, I guess. Truly, they did not need to include that line. It would have been just fine. They shot themselves in the foot, and for what? What was the reason? Speaking of bad plot lines, the whole climax of the show, if you will, is a man putting his seed into his wife. Simon made a promise to his dying father that he would never have kids and therefore never continue the legacy, the bloodline, and the dukeship would die with him, right? So his father died believing that. You won, Simon. You won. Your dad's dead. He's not gonna find out. Who's gonna tell him? Who? Hello? Are you gonna tell him? I'm not gonna tell him. Are you? They said they won't tell him up there. If he's up there. If he's down there, I'm sure he won't find out either. I don't know if they really get like broadcast TV in hell. And it takes just like so much brooding over this. And it takes honestly way too long. The story dragged on way too long when it comes to that storyline alone. The whole promise to his father thing just drags out way too long. Everyone in the show needs therapy. Every single person. Also, stop saying that you can't have kids. Say you won't. However, this does not excuse what happens later, which is assault. Daphne assaulted Simon and then still played the victim. And now here's the thing. I realized that this happened in a book, I think. I think this whole show is based on a book, but I've also read, I didn't read the book, but I've read that it's, not only is it not historically accurate, but it's also not super accurate to the book. But apparently this does happen in the book. So what the show could have done was allow something bad to happen, right? Daphne can be a flawed character. She can make mistakes. She can do something legitimately bad. But then take that and teach Daphne a lesson. Show her, hey, what you did was really wrong, really messed up. Yeah, he lied to you, but you assaulted him. So, before you did what you did, you were allowed to be upset that he lied to you. And sure, you are, in a sense, a victim, because having known nothing about sex going into this relationship, it does sort of fall on him to teach you. And the fact that he hid things from you, I'm sure, felt very uncomfortable because you are very vulnerable and open with someone who is still hiding things from you. I get that. So the writers never discussed this, really. They just had it happen, and then Daphne played the victim and never showed the audience that what Daphne did was wrong. I mean, we hopefully know, but the show doesn't really help you come to that conclusion. It's just always Simon's fault. Everything is just Simon's fault. I'm all over the place. I am in no way going in any kind of order, but this made me mad too. The whole duel that happens before they get married. She rides in on a horse to save her lover's life, right? Simon basically says, I'd rather die than marry you and take your life from you, and I'm literally gonna let your brother shoot me dead over this than marry you. And then Daphne said, no, don't. He's like, oh, okay. That's it. Like, it was so dramatic. This whole setup to have this duel was so dramatic. Just for her to be like, no, don't. You're too sexy. He was willing to die, and then he's just like, okay, I'll live a little longer then, fine. You talked me into it. And honestly, I might have left it alone if it had been a standalone story. I probably would have just been like, that was weird. Let it go. But it got renewed for season 2. And as someone who has fallen victim to shows I like being canceled for God knows what reason by Netflix, season 2 of what? More watered down porn, basic Wattpad fanfiction plot. Where do you get off, Netflix? I mean, clearly you got off a lot doing this. I'm convinced that Bridgerton and Tiger King fall into the same category of no one would really watch it if it weren't for the fact that we're still in lockdown, right? So in March of 2020, we got Tiger King. Everyone was stuck at home, had literally nothing better to do. And Netflix is like, hey, this little documentary. This little crazy guy. He's got a little eyebrow ring hanging on by a thread. There's big cats in it. Give it a look-see. See if you like it. And we all watched it, and it was terrible. But we watched it, and we talked about it, and we were obsessed with it because we had quite literally nothing better to do. And here we are in what I'm considering of season 3 of lockdown. People went through this phase last year where they became really obsessed with Pride and Prejudice, and I am tempted to gatekeep because I loved it before it was popular, but you get it. I mean, I just don't want it to be, I don't want it to be ruined. It's something that I hold very dear, and it's been around for a long time. And people kind of acted like last year it got rediscovered, and they're the ones that rediscovered it, and we're like so special for rediscovering it. Like, take it easy. Jane Austen's doing just fine without your encouragement. So Bridgerton came along out of that. I think it is just a child of quarantine and of all of us just frothing at the mouth for social gatherings. And we all watched it, and it wasn't good, but we watched it anyway, and then talked about nothing but it for a good month or so. Even still, I still see TikToks all the time of the orchestra version of Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift, and people being like, what I would wear in Bridgerton, you know, so it's still very popular, still being talked about, and it's gonna have a season 2, and I'm not gonna watch season 2. I don't care. I have a problem with the way we're making period pieces now. Why are we just chomping at the bit for people in fancy dresses having sex? It gives showmakers the green light to just make absolutely trash content and still guarantee them views purely because of the aesthetic. If you enjoy watching it, that's fine. Again, I'm not saying you can't enjoy watching it. We're allowed to enjoy content even if it's not good. You know, I literally sell enamel pins. If you want to check them out, they're on Etsy. They're cheaper now than they used to be. I have an enamel pin that says cringe culture is dead. It was birthed from my Twilight videos. I stand by that. If you enjoy watching it, that's fine, but we really need to start holding these producers and these productions accountable and not hail these shows as life-changing or groundbreaking when they're mediocre at best. I do want to wrap up this video by recommending a period piece that I just finished not long ago called The Great. It's on Hulu. It is a period piece that I do believe tries to stick to historical accuracy, though it will say in the very beginning when the title screen comes up that says The Great, it'll have a little asterisk, and then at the bottom it will say an occasionally true story. So if you just want porn with plot, The Great is not for you. But if you want plot with like some romance sprinkled in, then The Great is for you. It's based in Russia. It's about the Russian empress and emperor. I can't really talk about it without giving away anything because every little thing was so just like shocking to me. I was always surprised at every turn. The characters are very well rounded. It's not just about, you know, two characters that are a love interest. It's so many other characters in their lives and they get rounded out, and I love that. It really built up this world for you to be immersed in. It's not just taking place in a little ballroom. It's an entire world because it is based on something that did happen in our actual history. It made me laugh, it made me gasp, it made me cry. It's chef's kiss. I only have one complaint, and that's coming from someone like me who complains a lot. My only complaint is that the characters range from Russian, German, and Swedish, and they all have British accents. So if you have Hulu, or if you have means to find it a la Captain Jack Sparrow, if you catch my drift, definitely watch it. I would recommend that if you are still hungering for a good period piece. It won't give you, you know, the romance that you crave. I guess it's not a romance. There are some romantic aspects, but as a whole, it is not a romance. In summation, Bridgerton is, it's the Tiger King of 2021. You're allowed to like it, but you don't get to say it's good. All right, thank you for watching. Some quick housekeeping, if I can call it that. Ironically, in my last video, I said like, hey, I've been spending a lot more time on Twitch, so if I don't upload videos pretty regularly, that's where you can find me. I uploaded that video, and quite literally 2 days later, I got hired on to work on a show. I can't say anything about it, but I'm working on a show as a PA until September. I'm slammed, of course. I'm working at minimum 12 hours every day, except for weekends. I got myself a little big girl job, so obviously Twitch will be a lot more complicated. I do still plan to stream at least 2 to 3 days a week. The 2 days that I will stream will be weekends, and my weekends are Sunday and Monday. And then I hope at some point during the week I find one day where I can stream at some point, whether it's more midday or nighttime, but you know, so obviously I'm going to be pulling back on stream. I will still try to keep YouTube videos up, so you'll find links to, you know, my Twitch account and my social media, so in case I go live or I post a YouTube video, whatever, and you don't get a notification from Twitch or YouTube, I always tweet about everything, every thought that I've ever had I put on Twitter. So links to that will be down below. Again, I mentioned earlier that I sell enamel pins. I'm trying to get rid of them. They're 30% off. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I put my foot in my mouth.